Quomodo ad statum pervenimus ubi mendaciatam fortia quam veritas.
Shout out to everybody who is celebrating the winter solstice. Happy winter solstice to you. Those who recognize their ancestral birthright, which is the celebration of the things that are actually going on at this time, not the offshoots or the versions of what's going on, but the true thing in the northern hemisphere where the sun is seemingly dying, which is just the changing from the fall into the winter and the beginning of Capricorn season. And this is no disrespect to anybody who's following whatever it is they believe in, but I choose to follow my ancestral bloodline and birthright traditions instead of the ones that were forced upon me. So if you don't believe that things were forced upon you, you might want to look up Saturnalia or the Yule or any other Norse or Roman tradition centered around this time. And this is why I advocate for people to learn their culture, learn your bloodline, learn the culture of your bloodline, instead of what you're doing now by living in Rome and doing as the Romans do. You're completely oblivious to what you used to do. So if you learn your own culture and the things that you came from, then it's very easy to see where your ancestors went wrong and what you need to do to correct that.
Because everybody in the world of peoples of color, and even many of the white people in Europe, the Jews and so forth, having inherited that knowledge from the Iberians who was there, celebrated the winter solstice. The time when the earth tilts back towards the sun, and we're moving back towards summertime now. And it was on December the 25th, around December the 22nd. And went on through some places December the 25th. And it was the birthday of Horus, or Haru, from which we get the word hero, the son of Osset and Osar, whom they misnomed Isis and Osiris. The birthday of Tammuz, the birthday of Mithra, just about any savior god around the world was born on this day. So they said, these people are not going to let this go, so we're going to have a birthday for ours.
The winter solstice is on December 21st, and here's what you need to know about it. It's the moment that matters more than we actually realize. The winter solstice marks the shortest day and the longest night of the year in the northern hemisphere. From June until now-ish, the days have been slowly shrinking, and the sun has been rising later, setting earlier, and sitting lower in the sky. On the solstice itself, the sun appears to pause. Just the movement reaches its lowest point before it changes direction. Ancient cultures noticed this long before modern calendars even existed. They watched the sky very carefully because survival really depended on it. The solstice signaled something really crucial here. It stopped getting worse. From this point forward, the light begins to return slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, but steadily. And that's why the winter solstice has always symbolized rebirth, survival, and hope. Biologically, winter affects us so deeply. Our circadian rhythm slows, our need becomes to be rest, and our bodies start to conserve energy. This isn't about weakness, it's design. Nature pulls inward, and so do we. Trees shed their leaves, growth moves underground, life doesn't disappear, it just reorganizes itself a bit. This is why the solstice is often described as a threshold, a liminal space, a womb-like pause between what has been and what will come next. Light is not born from light, it's always born from darkness. If you feel quieter than usual right now, or even more reflective, more tired, or a little less motivated to push through, well, that doesn't mean something is wrong necessarily. It means that you're aligned. Even nature is resting now. The solstice isn't asking you to set massive goals right now or to force clarity. It's asking you to sit with meaning, to reflect on what sustained you this year and to acknowledge what really didn't and let it go, to honor your emotions without rushing to fix them. This is the time to be with warmth, with people that you trust and love, with simple comforts, with candlelight and stillness and honest conversations. Gratitude for what has carried you through to this point.
In Matthew chapter 12, page 788. Now understand this. The sun in the sky is born of a virgin. The sun in the sky seeks the balance, which is the carrying of the cross. The sun in the sky is betrayed, which is Scorpio. The sun in the sky is crucified on December 21st, which is the shortest day of the year. The sun in the sky is entombed in the bowels of the earth in the winter solstice 3 days and 3 nights. This is where we've gotten so far. And if you look at Matthew chapter 12 on page 788, and on verse 40 it says, "For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." And that is an allegorical portrayal of the movement of the sun. 3 days and 3 nights in the bowels of the earth is 3 days and 3 nights in the winter solstice.
And just keep in mind, the fact that you practice something or that you ritualistically do something as tradition every year and you lend your energy to that, just know that you are that, or you become that over time in generation. So if you really want to know what you're lending your energy to, go back and research what it is that you think that you're doing. And you might change your mind about what it is you're celebrating. So let's get to the crux, no pun intended, of what we're really celebrating here, right? We're now moving from that season of supposed Thanksgiving, of massacres of people, into the season that is supposed to be about the birth of Christ, which is really about the winter solstice and the death of the sun. But we're made to think that this is about something else.
This is the cross of the zodiac, one of the oldest conceptual images in human history. It reflects the sun as it figuratively passes through the 12 major constellations over the course of a year. It also reflects the 12 months of the year, the 4 seasons, and the solstices and equinoxes. From the summer solstice to the winter solstice, the days become shorter and colder. And from the perspective of the northern hemisphere, the sun appears to move south and get smaller and more scarce. The shortening of the days and the expiration of the crops when approaching the winter solstice symbolized the process of death to the ancients. It was the death of the sun. And by December 22nd, the sun's demise was fully realized, for the sun, having moved south continually for 6 months, makes it to its lowest point in the sky. Here a curious thing occurs. The sun stops moving south, at least perceivably, for 3 days. And during this 3-day pause, the sun resides in the vicinity of the Southern Cross, or Crux, constellation. And after this time, on December 25th, the sun moves 1 degree, this time north, foreshadowing longer days, warmth, and spring.
If the first day of winter, December 21st, is the shortest day of the year, that means every day that follows is longer. Conclusion? The days get longer in the winter, not shorter.
Because in the year 336, the Roman Emperor Constantine was trying to do away with paganism and really make Christianity a thing. Well, at that time, the biggest ancient festival was something called Saturnalia. This was a festival celebrating the god Saturn that lasted a little over a week starting on December 17th. The ancient Romans chose this time to celebrate Saturn because it was during winter solstice, which is when the sun is in a very specific position in the sky. Anyway, so Constantine thought, since everybody's already celebrating at this time, the whole world can make a much easier transition to Christianity. You gotta realize that at this time, most people worshipped multiple deities and were so-called pagans. Well, since Constantine and the Council of Nicaea were hell-bent on making Christianity the most powerful religion on earth, they just slapped their holidays on top of pagan holidays so the people could convert easier. Speaking of pagan, what does that word even mean? Like, why do we act like pagan means devil worshiper? The actual definition of pagan is any person holding religious beliefs other than the main world religions. So in other words, anybody who is not Christian or Muslim. Words like that is how Christianity was able to take over the entire planet by creating a bad word for people who didn't convert. He is pagan! Kill him!
The utter disrespect that you have for your ancestors, the people who came before you, the ones whose shoulders that you stand on, and call them pagan and primitive and all these derogatory terms. Meanwhile, these are the same people that had government and all these different things created before anybody else came along. You now think that they're primitive and the things that they celebrate, which were natural, are somehow evil. But for some reason, we want to celebrate debauchery. We want to celebrate the version given to us by the people that conquered us. That's what we want to celebrate. Instead of our own ancestral birthright, the things that would naturally go according to us, we have forgotten what that is and have bought into what we were told or what was beat into us.
Have you ever wondered why we decorate the Christmas tree? Why we light the Yule log? Why we hang the mistletoe? And why we teach our children to believe in Santa Claus? In the Northern Hemisphere during late December, the days are at their shortest lengths and the nights are at their longest. For those of the pagan world, this has always been the greatest time of the year to celebrate and practice the works of darkness. The pagan calendar identifies this period as the winter solstice. It was during the pre-Christian midwinter pagan celebrations of Scandinavia's Norsemen where today's Christmas traditions began. As a means of honoring the pagan sex and fertility god Yule, a 12-day celebration during the month of December was inaugurated. A large single log considered to be a phallic idol was lit on fire and kept burning for 12 days. Animal or human sacrifices were offered in the fire on each of those days. Wild, delirious reveling accompanied the daily sacrifices as drunken participants defiantly strove to make contact with spirits. 1,000 miles away in pre-Christian Rome, celebrants were paying homage to their own gods during the winter solstice. Witchcraft traditions hold that a number of pagan gods were given birth during this period, including Dionysus, Attis, and Baal, chief male god of fertility and licentiousness. Another pagan god from Persia, identified as Mithra, was said to have been born specifically on December 25th. Mithra was the god of the unconquerable sun, the god of the light between heaven and earth, worshipped at that time by an influential Roman cult. His birth symbolized an end to the long nights and a return to the dominance of the sun. During the month-long winter solstice celebration, courts in Rome were closed. Any and all crimes were allowed. Homosexuality, cross-dressing, and uncontrolled debauchery reigned supreme. Rome's order was turned upside down. Even children were allowed to join in the drunken orgies as part of the Juvenalia celebration. By 270 AD, the Roman Emperor Aurelian had made it official, setting aside a 7-day period from December the 17th through the 24th, culminating in an exchange of gifts on December the 25th to celebrate the birth of the sun god. This Roman orgy to end all orgies later became known as Saturnalia, in honor of the god Saturn, the god of excess. Roman soldiers invading Britain brought with them their pagan orgiastic traditions. Upon taking root in England, Saturnalia became known as the Festival of Fools, reigned over by the Lord of Misrule. By the 4th century, the influential government-sanctioned Church of Rome, unable to outlaw the growing number of pagan practices, chose instead to adopt them into their so-called official Christianity. The Church believed this would attract more pagans to their fold.
Up until this time, the birthday of Jesus Christ, the Jewish Messiah, had not been celebrated at all. Ignoring scriptures, however, indicating that the birth probably did not occur during the winter, the Church nevertheless confused biblical history and made Jesus' birthday coincide with the pagan god Mithra. The birth date of the sun god had now become the birth date of the Son of God.
It was hoped that the pagan celebrations of Saturnalia would merge into this new legally sanctioned form of Christianity. The Church's practice of changing the dates of Christian events to coincide with pagan festivals continued, and by the 7th century, Pope Gregory I had ordered Augustine of Canterbury to incorporate any and all pagan practices and customs into the expanding Roman Catholic Church. During the Middle Ages, the debased Mardi Gras atmosphere of what was now known as Christ's Mass had reached a fevered pitch. Common practices included open sex in the streets, rioting, murder, and a number of pagan druidic Halloween rituals. This blood-drenched celebration got so out of hand that by 1652, following the execution of King Charles I, Christ's Mass was finally outlawed in England. A religious reform movement began sweeping the country, led by Puritan Oliver Cromwell. The Puritans took the biblical mandate seriously, which commanded that Christianity remain pure and separate from paganism. Despite their noble efforts, the celebration simply went underground, and by 1656, after only 4 short years under the ban, the public's demand for the legalization of Christ's Mass had become insurmountable. The appointment of Charles II to the throne restored England's monarchy, and with it the celebration of Christ's Mass. The Puritans had lost England, but they held high hopes for the new world.
When the first settlers came from England, they were, for the most part, Puritans. They came here for religious freedom. They came here to be free to worship God without a hierarchy and without the corruption of the organized church that they had known before. And when they came with the clear knowledge of the danger of these pagan practices that had become so dear to the hearts of their ancestors.
Following England's lead in 1659, the colonies of America had likewise outlawed Christmas. For 200 years, the clergy in New England battled to keep the riotous celebrations honoring the pagan god Saturn from infiltrating the New World. The Reverend Cotton Mather had warned in a Christmas Day sermon in 1712, "Can you in your conscience think that your Holy Savior is honored by hard drinking, lewd reveling, and by a mass fit for none but Bacchus or Saturn?" But the public's taste for sin and revelry persisted. In 1828, gang rioting during the Saturnalia-like Christmas celebrations got so bad that cities such as New York were forced to institute a professional police force for the first time in order to control the savagery.
Christmas was not only not widely celebrated, in many cases, many places, Christmas celebrations were actually outlawed. And this was because of the attitude of many of the churches who regarded it as primarily as a pagan celebration and as a reproach to the Lord.
By the mid-19th century, American churches were the last remaining holdout in the war against the validation of Christmas. However, they too finally succumbed as a result of the efforts of the American Sunday School Society, who began advocating Christmas programs for children as a method of filling the pews. The society argued that children could be taught about the birth of Christ through the reenactment of the Nativity. They also offered candy and treats to the children as a means of enticing families into accepting the holiday, despite its notorious history and blatantly pagan roots. It was the work of England's most popular writer, Charles Dickens, whose ghostly 1843 book, A Christmas Carol, cemented the Christmas holiday in the hearts of Americans forever.
So, as I said, enjoy your winter solstice, but learn where it really comes from.